Hello and welcome to this course about Maya rigging. What is Maya rigging? I'm hoping that you know this if you are this far in this course, but here's my definition of rigging. Rigging is the process of creating a digital skeleton for objects that allows them to be deformed by human, simulation, or a game engine in the most realistic, efficient, and effective way possible. Okay, rigging basics. So here are some links to some tutorials on rigging in Maya. I'll expect that you have some experience of Maya and rigging if you're doing this course, but if not, then here are some links to some free resources. As rigging basics are not really the point of this course, and the subject alone would be far too long for me to cover, I will vet a few videos and the links, and I'll add them below. So please feel free to have a look at these and watch these in another time, or even before moving forward, just to gain a bit of clarity if you feel you need to. Maya rigging. Here's a high-level overview of the rigging process in Maya. Number 1, creating a skeleton. The first step to rigging is to create a skeleton for the object or objects that you want to animate. This is typically done by placing joints at the key points of an object, or at the key points like hips, shoulders, and elbows, if we're looking at creatures. Number 2, binding the mesh to the skeleton. Once the skeleton is created, you need to bind the 3D mesh of the object to the skeleton. This involves assigning each vertex of the mesh to the closest joint in the hierarchy. Number 3, creating control objects. After the mesh is bound and weighted to the skeleton, you can now create control objects that will allow you to manipulate the object's movements. These controls can take many forms, such as custom shapes or curves, and allow animation to store movements against these controllers. Number 4, setting up constraints and connections. Once the control objects are created, you can set up constraints and connections that will allow you to control the object's movements using the controls. Number 5, adding additional functionality. Finally, you will need to add additional functionality to the rig, such as the ability to blend between different animations, or to create complex motion cycles that can be reused across multiple animations. Of course, this is just a high-level overview of the rigging process. Rigging can be a complex and time-consuming process, but it's an essential step, obviously, in creating high-quality 3D animations. Here are some main considerations when rigging a prop. Is it best, or would a simulation look better from the SFX team, special effects team? This might take less time, for example. What does animation require for the shots with this model? We only really should put the control needed for a shot and required by animation. There's no point in doubling your workload, putting in controllers for car doors, car wheels, if the car's parked and it's never going to be used. And just on that same effect, if a cape is going to be fully simulated by this special effects team, then you may not need to put controllers in it. But if animation or also need to flick the cape around and give the SFX guys some animation to go with, then you'll need to put controllers on there. So number 2, pre-build checks. Make sure the mesh is named correctly with matching suffixes. Check if the geometry's attributes are zeroed out. Where appropriate, make sure that the mesh is mirrored. This will save time waiting with complex models and allow you to copy skin weighting from X to -X, especially with creatures. Always, pretty much 99% of the models I work with, I enforce them being symmetrical, even if they're not going to be symmetrical later on. Okay, that can be a blend shape or that can be added later. It's best to work with something symmetrical so that you can weight it. At least if you weight the projector, then you can project those weights forward to the asymmetrical creature. Number 3, building. Add controllers where animators will need to direct and control the object's deformation. Add secondary controllers where the animators might need extra control or constraint help. Make sure controllers do not have values on them before passing to animation. Pre-send sanity checks. Check your rigs automatically and then get an animator to test them for you ASAP. It doesn't matter if they just work well. The animator's also got to be happy that they work logically for them. So let's talk about rigging characters now. Here are some considerations when rigging a character. Number 1, requirements. What does your client want? Okay, the most important question here. Okay, what does the character do? The second most important question. Okay, if the client just wants a quick-made character with hardly any time spent on it, but the character has to be doing flips, splits, and lots of crazy animation, then those two first questions are at odds, and you need to talk back to your client. Okay. Does the character need a face rig? Are they talking? Do they need bendy limbs? Again, these all add massive amounts of time, depending on how much you've automated to the building of your rig. Okay. There's very little parts of a rig that you can get through with 100% automation. Okay, you'll always have to kind of do a little bit of work on them. But then the next thought is, what's the budget? Can you do all of this work in the given time? Okay, that is probably, again, another one of the most important questions for you and yourself. If you are going to end up spending 5 days on a job which you're only being paid for 3 days, then you have to tell them this. You do not work for 5 days when you're only charging for 3. There's only so much time you will do this for before you're realizing you're actually shooting yourself in the foot and every other rigger in the foot. And I mean that literally. If everyone bids under everyone else's time, and we're all in a race to the bottom. Okay, it literally doesn't work. Number 2, pre-build checks. So run through the checks as above for a prop. Okay, automate these checks, write them into code, and then make sure that you run them as a little script. It'll help you a lot. There should be a neutral expression on the character that's first given to you. Okay, if your character is already growling or already in an excessive pose, it's going to be hard to do any other pose. I'd say the only exception for this is if it's a monster that has a resting pose of a grimace. But then to make them smile, you might need a blend shape. So I'd say the second that you have multiple facial expressions, it's best to have a neutral one so that you can then go between. Okay, you don't want any expressions. You want to be able to create those and give those to the character. Is the character in a relaxed pose with limbs that are not too straight or too bent? Obviously too straight, okay, and you're going to be getting a lot of clicking every time you straighten the leg. It's going to be hard to know where to put your pole vector for your OK. Okay, you want to have a slight bend, maybe 5 or 6% of the leg bend that you should have for at least 5 or 10 degrees. Number 3, building. Run through the checks as above for a prop. Check that you have the requirements from animation and check that the rig can perform them while building. This can be also automated. Make sure that you save the keys out into a file, import those keys, and apply them to your rig. If you've automated a rig build and all your controllers are the same, named the same, then you should be able to quickly import animation, test your rig very quickly, and give it a visual check over. All right, you should make sure you do this before always exporting a rig. You'll see so many issues that you may not have seen while just waiting. Get a first draft as soon as possible to animation so that they can start placing the rig in scenes. It doesn't mean if it's blocked, okay, or if it's this means that even if you've just hard weighted to your character, send this to animation. This is better than nothing. If the controllers are all set in position, then it's best for them to have something to start placing. Okay, previs and blocking is going to take them time, so help them start early. If you wait until everything's completely finished in your scene and with your rig, it's just going to annoy everyone. That's the whole point of having automation, so that everything, especially with your controller names, is the same as you move forward, so that animators can just literally switch out your rig for the most up-to-date one and then keep moving forward like this. Number 4, pre-send sanity checks. So as we've just talked about, check your rig's range of motion, okay, range of movement, okay, your ROM, and then get an animator to test it for you ASAP. Okay, just as above with props, you need to make sure an animator is always in this step. If an animator hasn't tested your rig and given you feedback, then it's not finished. You should always look at it like this, okay? And then again, just testing your range of motion or having an animation on FK ready to import and push onto your rig, it will always save you time. This will very quickly show you a lot of problems and issues that you might have missed. These are just some of the steps for creating simple rigs in Maya. As you become more experienced with the software, you can explore more advanced techniques and workflows, as hopefully we're going to be doing shortly. Additionally, there are many resources available online, including tutorials and forums for very basic Maya methodologies, and I definitely advise looking through the Maya forums on YouTube and going through these. They can be really helpful. They can help you learn a lot more about rigging techniques in Maya, trust me. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you on the next course.